Welcome back to the Winner's Circle. Today I'm here with Alex from Align Data Centers. They are in the data center business. It's right in the name. They are a big innovation award winner for 2026, and they've won a couple of other awards from us and a lot of other awards from other award-winning agencies. But they are a super fast-growing data center company. So welcome, Alex, and congratulations again on the award and the acquisition.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So give us a little bit of background about you and what Align Data Center does. I mean, we all know what data centers are. It's now consuming all of our energy and oil and gas and people and everything. So tell us a little bit about how Align fits into that picture.
Yeah, so I'm Alice Walker. I've been with Align for about a year and a half. I am out of our Phoenix market, but I'm originally from Northern Virginia. So I've kind of grown up around the data center industry without actually knowing what data centers were when I was a kid coming up, right in the hub of everything.
Well, they were weird little warehouse boxes on the edge of town, right? They're kind of like central offices for the telco centers. You didn't see a whole lot of them. Now you start seeing them kind of all over. Now you guys are in the kind of construction business. You're building data centers all over the world. Tell us a little bit about that business and kind of what the focus is for Align.
Yeah, so I run our data center construction for our Phoenix region, specifically the North Phoenix, West Phoenix region. And it's a little bit of everything from figuring out exactly what data center we're going to build, what configuration, working with our amazing team of subject matter experts, our design team, and walking it through the whole process. We have to get funding from our board in order to get these going. So we really get to see the very beginning life cycle of a data center and what we're going to put there and help shape why we're doing it and how we're doing it, all the way through to handing it over to our operations team. So one of the things I love about it, especially being on the owner side now, is truly getting to touch every single piece of what makes a data center go from just a piece of land to a huge operation.
Yeah, and you don't think about it, but you kind of sit right in the hub of all this, activity. You've got, a massive engineering effort. You've got real estate efforts. You've got workforce efforts, right? And you're really, you're building out an infrastructure, just in a single site that is going to be there for decades, right? And then you're talking about, I imagine, a lot of those sites are strung together into networks, and now you're talking about something that is really the infrastructure or digital infrastructure of a city.
Yeah, we get to touch all different pieces of it. It's really exciting. I like to think of kind of the construction team as one of those pieces that kind of pulls it all together. Our process from beginning to end can take quite a while. These are large data centers, and only getting bigger as we continue to move forward in this industry.
Well, and Align's really unique in that they're taking kind of the sustainability approach to building out data centers. Walk us through a little bit about kind of the company's kind of goals and missions in the sustainability area. Now you're leading all these major construction platform, programs. It's like putting up a high rise, I imagine, except it's kind of wide, right? You've got this very wide building instead of a very tall building. What experience in your background kind of helped shape, your experiences here and what you're doing in the data center market?
Yeah, so I came up through the general contractor side, and I had the great experience of working for a general contractor that touched a little bit of everything. So my first building I ever built was actually a tall 17-story office building in just outside of DC. The smallest project I've ever built is a Little League baseball field for the Washington Nationals Dream Foundation, which really fun project. And everything in between, higher ed, K through 12. That's really where I got my experience of learning construction. I had an opportunity to travel and go to my first data center project, and really honestly had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had raised my hand and said yes, I was willing to go, and they sent me to a cornfield in Iowa. And I really kind of my start of my data center career. I loved the fast pace, big build. I really love the team mentality too. With the speed of data centers, you can't do it if everybody's not working together. And that piece of it, that camaraderie of we are all working together and we've got to get it done. I find data centers a lot more collaborative than some of the other industries because we're solving complex problems, but we don't necessarily always have time to do it in a formal fashion. So it's a lot of getting all the right people in the right room and trying to figure out the best way to solve the problem together. It doesn't have to be the typical person you would think would come up with the answer. The answers can come from a lot of people, which I've really appreciated.
Well, and you're tasked with kind of managing these big cross-functional, technical teams, like you were talking about before. You're dealing with, kind of the architect engineering types, and then you're also dealing with, guys moving large mountains of earth and big pieces of machinery and walls and everything else. How do you describe your leadership style when you're kind of managing all those different types of personalities and functions?
You definitely have to tailor it a little bit to who you're working with. How you approach a design team is very different from how you approach your site work subcontractor. And I like to think of my leadership style as collaborative, like I was saying earlier. I don't go into the room with a lot of ego. Most of these guys have been doing this for some longer than I've been alive. So I try to get the best out of everybody around me, finding their expertise, and it's really getting the right people in the right room to solve problems.
And I imagine you do run into some challenging personalities in this area. How do you kind of work through those challenging personalities and get them on board with the project?
Yeah, challenging personalities in the construction industry is something that, again, I've learned from the very beginning. Uh, it's it's a stressful industry, so a lot of the challenges with big personalities come in those stressful situations. So taking it down from this is an emergency to okay, this is a challenge, but we've all solved these challenges before. Maybe this is different from how we've done it previously, but at the end of the day, the buildings always get built. And I think helping everybody reframe the situation from, yes, it is critical to it's critical, but we can do this without being elevated. I think that really helps pull those big personalities together.
Now, walk us through kind of the kind of technical steps of developing one of these sites. I imagine it's very different for everyone, but there's got to be kind of a templated model of, kind of, even from site selection, how are you picking these sites to, how are you determining how large a site, that type of stuff. How are you guys getting to figure out what goes where?
So yeah, so site selection happens before a lot of the times I'm involved, but once we get to having a site selection, it is really how big of a data center can we fit on the piece of land for the power we have available. We are trying to utilize every piece of space and every piece of power. And that's kind of the first step. So we have some projects that are in spaces where land is challenging. And then we have other projects where land is not a challenge. So kind of balancing cost and benefit in each of those, you'll get very different outcomes of what our buildings look like in those two situations. After we kind of figure out the land and power constraint, from there we're looking at like both cost and schedule efficiencies for whatever data center shape or configuration that we're looking at. Also considering starting to think about what our tenants are going to need and trying to be predictive of what they are going to need while balancing that we don't necessarily know who we're going to lease to before we start one of these projects. So our SMEs, our subject matter experts, have our basis of design, which is configured in a way that we can cater to a lot of different clients and their specific needs at a later point in time, and trying to find those balances of doing enough to be ready for our clients and not doing too much where it becomes not cost effective.
And I imagine that a lot of these sites are changing pretty frequently. The design, as you said, you've got kind of the template, but I think about even like, the warehouse, model has changed, dramatically over the last, 50 years as we've moved into kind of a warehouse model for goods and services. But, even, the grocery stores changed, how we shop at a grocery store changed. What changes in the data center are you seeing evolve as we kind of get into this, going from this kind of internet model to this new AI model?
Yeah, they're getting bigger. The pieces of equipment are getting bigger. The megawatts we're delivering are getting bigger. The technology that we can put in a smaller footprint. So while necessarily the square footage isn't getting bigger, what we can do in that square footage is growing. And it's different, again, different configurations based on where you end up building these. So if it's stacked yards because you're in a tight space, or it's spread out, depends on a lot of what jurisdictions you're working on. That is a real determining factor of what we are building.
Yeah. And I guess inside of that data center, are you noticing any changes in kind of design or layouts as this is happening? It used to be, I think, I don't know, probably 20 years ago now, there was this huge battle in, how to design data centers for better airflow and better, cooling and better efficiencies. Are you still seeing that? Are your team still working on those efficiency gains and making tweaks to the internal designs?
Yeah, absolutely. They're still continuing to improve our internal designs, but they're definitely more tweaks than large changes when you walk through them. The large changes are coming in the technology side of it. So if you walk into our data centers, you're not necessarily going to see a big configuration difference between one of our previous builds and the ones we're working on, but the technology that's going into them and how they're laid out are slightly changing. I think kind of the biggest change I'm really seeing is more and more liquid cooling. I feel like every time we're talking about a new project, that's the new hot topic, is whether or not the building will be liquid cooled and how we're set up for that.
So walk us through that. That's liquid cool to the chip, or is that liquid cool to the server?
Liquid cool to the chip. That's the big discussion, is whether or not we're going to be set up for a client that wants liquid cooled to the chip. One of the pros about the aligned design is we can pretty easily pivot from liquid to air cooled and different percentages of liquid cooled to the chip, depending on our client's needs. So kind of starting with that baseline, if we start at a baseline that has some liquid cooling, we're able to pivot to whatever our tenants need.
Now, as I understand, the AI workloads are radically changing how basically the computers are consuming power and everything else. How do you see that changing the environment in 5 years as this just continues to, hockey stick up? Other than getting bigger.
Well, yeah, one of the things that I mean, the amount of space that servers take up in a hall nowadays, back in the day, it was how many servers could you possibly jam in a hall. Now we have data halls that honestly look relatively empty because the amount of power that's going to single servers is completely different from how it used to be. So as we do more of that and more high density, I think you'll see the overall square footage of data halls continue to change. But as of right now, because not every tenant is wanting 100% liquid cooled, we're still not making that change as of yet because we need that flexibility. If a tenant doesn't want a liquid cooled or wants less liquid cooled, we still need that space available to cater to our clients. So I don't think air cooled is going away anytime soon. So the key right now is flexibility.
Yeah, outside of power and construction, what are you looking at that kind of for innovation in construction or operations? What are you seeing out there that's exciting you?
So, kind of going back to some of the basics, really getting partners involved as early as possible. Those are the kind of things that truly make a difference. Having our general contractor partners on board, having our trade partners on board when we're starting early designs. Sounds easy, but it's not always the case. A lot of projects start very quickly. And with that, sometimes it's a scramble to get the right partners in place, but the ability to have those people in the room as we're starting design processes, it's amazing what we can get out of it and the efficiency we get at every level by having all the right team in the room at the beginning.
Do you think there's one kind of area kind of in your process that's kind of ripe for innovation, like where you could see the biggest opportunity?
That's a good question. I think construction changes so fast that there's never going to be a one simple innovation that's going to be the answer for construction. A lot of this is still very much old school construction. We have to have workers put the piece in place. One of the innovations that you are seeing more and more is prefabrication. And I do think that is going to be a big opportunity as we continue to move forward, finding new ways to do fabrication off-site and bringing them to site in larger chunks. But again, that's still the same thing, just in a different location. So making sure when we're moving those off-site that we have the right quality and safety programs wherever we're prefabbing our material.
Has 3D printing made it into the data center world yet? Into the kind of, I know there, in other areas, they're 3D printing houses and warehouses and everything else. Have you seen that pop into the data center market?
Not yet that I've seen, but you never know. We're just continuing to change as we go forward. So you never know where this industry can go.
Now you're in this kind of interesting environment, right? This kind of old meets new. You've got this construction meets AI. What do you think you learned in your early career that's keeping you going in this kind of weird market?
Yeah, I think it's really um, the most successful projects have a really good foundation of the basics. It's how good is your scheduling program? How good is your quality control program? How well organized is your team? How strong is your safety? Really, those basic construction principles are the foundations to a successful project. Uh, Having a really strong commissioning team is always going to be the key to successfully turning over a data center. Without that piece, it just can't be successful. And really having those guys that have done this over and over and over again, no matter how successful the construction side is, commissioning gets squeezed tight at the end. If construction was done early enough, clients would be asking us to commission earlier anyway. So it's always going to be squeezed at the end. So having that strong commissioning team and having both general contractor internal knowledge as well as our third party commissioning agents all on the same page and working as one team, it's what makes or breaks a successful project.
And as you look out in the next kind of 5 years, what are you most excited about, kind of where Align's going and kind of the vision that you see?
Yeah, just more, bigger. I really love this Phoenix market, that team that we've put together here. It's really collaborative. We're working on 4 campuses across the metro, but the relationship across people and teams is really what I'm excited about. I love the sharing of knowledge and the collaborative nature of it. So I'm excited to see what this team does and what we get to continue to build in the future. I know our land development team continues to find more and more projects, not just in this area, but across the country. So who knows where we end up going next.
Well, Alex, congratulations again on the win. We're thrilled to always award people awards, and so we're thrilled to award the Big Innovation Award to you, and congratulations on all the success and being right in the middle of this, dirt meets AI world. So congratulations on all the success.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you bringing me on.